In today's episode, providing support for the man with 1,000 voices. It's 2 a.m. What do I do? Screenshot. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Providing support for the man with 1,000 voices. Back at my old IT help desk job, I would get calls anywhere from an agent on a call floor to possibly the CEO of the company. Everybody called the help desk for something, as we were the gateway to the entire IT department. Now, this story happened about 8 years ago. As was said, we get calls from everybody, but we don't process all requests over the phone. Password resets and specific IT requests have to be submitted via ticketing system, asking us to unlock someone's badge that got locked out cause they went on a vacation longer than 10 days also falls under this category. Now, we had a site where the call floor support would just willy-nilly give his username to every agent on the call floor and ask them to call us for help instead. When you call the help desk, we ask you for your username or ask you to spell out your first and last name, since it's not uncommon for new employees to not appear on our system right away. We just get their first and last name and build them a profile, and then validate that they were an actual employee using Windows Active Directory. Agents would always call in saying, "My username is redacted," and it was almost always a different voice I'd hear over the phone. They would act like they were the most entitled pricks in the company despite most of them being temps, and they were blatantly using a different person's username on phone calls to ask for stuff like password resets and such, which redacted already knows is against the rules. We'd push back on them as politely as we could, as even our calls were recorded and QA'd, but I almost always get the urge to say, "You're not redacted," cause I know his real voice. If you keep impersonating him, we're gonna have to let the hammer down, but I can't cause our IT director specifically stated we were to be shining examples of professionalism to everyone who calls the IT department. When I did hear Redacted's voice on the phone, I gave him a warning about not letting other people impersonate him, but he said that his site's boss is unreasonable cause he refuses to hire more support staff to help him out. So to save time, he just tells agents to call us and introduce themselves as him, and asks us not to report it. And of course we the help desk feel sorry for him cause we create the login IDs of every employee. We know he's telling the truth when he says he's a one-man operation. As those agent calls are always spread out amongst the team on every shift, we as a team just decided to take it on the chin so that one man could catch a break. To this day, even after I've long since left that company, I still wish I could kick his boss in the face just once, may 100 times, for making one man do the work of 5 people. It's 2 a.m. Backstory. This happened more than 10 years ago. During summer, my uncles got my grandmother a new to her computer, which she didn't want to use. I pried and she said that she was too old to use a computer. I disagreed. I showed her some basic computer tasks, like how to turn it on, using the mouse and keyboard, how to get logged on to the internet, some basic internet safety, shortcuts to news sites, and other simple for us, but hard for them tasks. She was most excited that she could read the news anytime, not just when it came on the TV. She took a computer class a few weeks after I had returned home to learn more of what it can do. It is important to mention that she lives in a different time zone, but has always been mindful of this when calling. Story. After a long night of test prep, I go to sleep exhausted. I'm reaming hard when my polyphonic bar phone goes off. That thing was loud. It took several seconds to pull me out of sleep, but I looked at the calling number and the time. It's from her area code. Now, that part of the family never calls at these hours, unless there's an emergency. Armed with this knowledge, I perk up and answer the phone. Me, nervous, hello? Grandma, as happy as could be, I sent you an email. Me, confused, what? Grandma? Grandma, yes, I sent you an email. I figured it out. Did you get? Me, so glad it's not an emergency, it's 2 in the morning, what? Grandma, no, I did the math. It's 2 in the afternoon. Did you get my email? I decided to turn on my tower and log on. Indeed, I see an email from her. Me, I do see an email from you. That's so cool. Now I can email you anytime. Grandma, well. I hope I can figure out how to write one back. You really got it? Me chuckled, I did. Grandma, thanks for showing me that I'm not too old to use the computer. I have to call your mother. I sent her one too. Me, you're very welcome. But, Grandma, it is actually 2 in the morning here. Maybe wait a few hours before calling her? Grandma, oh okay, yeah. Sorry, I must have done the math wrong. Me, don't apologize, I'm glad you called. We hung up shortly after. She did end up calling my mom. At 6:30 a.m. I guess she couldn't wait any longer. Edit, she lives in a different country, so my midnight is her morning. She usually calls in her evening, so she's used to catching us in our afternoons. In class the next day, the professor noticed I was unusually tired and confronted me. I told her a summary of my night, and she allowed me to retake the test. I thanked her, but Frankie, I was fine with the less than perfect but passing grade I got. I am enormously proud, to this day, of my grandma for being able to email on her own, and I would never give up that 2 a.m. call. She's had to stop using her computer, due to her legally blind status, over 80% blind. What do I do? Screenshot. With the stories on here about having users put in tickets for errors without the actual error message. Thought you all might enjoy this. Again, I have taken my time getting to the actual story, but if you want to be boring and miss the fluff, it's the last few paragraphs. I have now graduated from unofficially IT, but the person people go to IT-ish is kind of part of my official job. I've recently been added as the third person in a hodgepodge group that requests and troubleshoots access, or lack thereof, for the myriad of programs and permission levels for my decidedly non-IT department in a large healthcare corporation. So many permission levels. Along with the other 95% of my job, lol. Anyway, that's only tangentially related to this story. I'm just excited to be semi-officially IT, or officially semi-IT. When I told my dad, who is old-school computer geek punch cards for solving grad school math problems and writing programs in Fortran old school, he told me that next time I come over he'll show me the PowerShell programs he's been working on to convert some lawyer's 20 years old files from WordPerfect. He is semi-retired from the computer store he'd owned since the counter-sized business computer days. I told him that sounds like a blast, and he burst out laughing. I don't think he quite realized the level of nerd I am before that, lol. I know you guys will understand. So, on to the actual story. We are pretty informal on my team, and usually if someone is having issues they just shoot me an email or IM. So one of my good friends just changed her Windows password, and was having access trouble all day. We have a lot of programs on single sign-on and sometimes it goes a little sideways. Restarted, called the real IT folks, all that was figured out, or so I thought. And then about an hour later I got an email from her with the subject line, "What do I do?" Screenshot. All that was in the email was an image of a blank login/password entry screen that I did not recognize, and an error message saying the proxy XXXX requires a name and password. And nothing else. Well, at least I got the error message. Right. So I messaged her. Hey you. What are you trying to do anyway? Turns out to be Adobe Pro. Somehow when she reset her password it didn't change that one. So I did what I could and verified she still had access in the Active Directory. And to try the password tool that's supposed to reset all passwords. A bit anticlimactic, as then we were slammed, and I'm not sure if it's working for her now. But her email made me chuckle and hopefully it will do the same for you.